All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about probability. We're going to be starting our first unit on probability, which is chapter 4. Really, it's going to be the marriage of the two topics of this class, statistics and probability. So far, we've really spent our entire time on statistics, but now what we're going to be doing is focusing on probability so that we can look further at statistics and realize, well, what's the probability that these statistics, which are really guesses from a sample, what's the probability that they actually do apply to the population? And that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on the rest of this semester. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to have 8 different lessons in this unit. Probability basics, which is today, 4.1. And then events, single events, 2 events, some rules with probability, contingency tables, which are joint and marginal probabilities, conditional probability, the multiplication rule, and independent and dependent events, Bayes rule, and counting rules. So it's going to get pretty complicated towards the end, but it's going to start off, I think, pretty basic. So chapter 4, our goal is to move into inferential statistics. So remember, an inferential study is where you take the sample and infer about the population. And so we want to look and see, well, what is the probability that those inferences will actually be accurate? And that's where probability comes in. And so probability is the science of uncertainty. So we're not sure if this is going to happen, but how certain can we be that a certain event will happen? And that's really what probability is. In 4.1, we're going to talk about the probability basics. So some really basic things with probability. I'm guessing you probably already know these basic things, but we're going to talk about them anyway, just so that we don't make any assumptions that you know something, and then it turns out that you don't. So one of those basics is just the definition of a probability. If we define a probability of an event as F, which is that an event occurs, okay, so the number of ways an event can occur is the numerator, and then N is the total possible outcomes. A lot of times you see this as T, it's S over T, so it'd be S over T. You can think about it as successes over the total. Okay, the success that probability would actually happen over the total number of tries. Like the probability, real simple, is you flip a coin, what's the probability of heads? And well, there's 1 heads out of 2 tries. So heads or tails. So the probability is 1 out of 2. So here we have all the possible outcomes that could happen if you roll a pair of dice. You can get a 1 and a 1, a 2 and a 1, a 3 and a 1, or you can get a 1 and a 2. That's different than a 2 and a 1 because you could have 2 different dices. So we're going to assume that that's different, especially if you have a red dice and a black dice. That would be defined as different. And so we have 6 different things that could happen on 1 dice, 6 different things that can happen on another dice. So there's a total of 36 different outcomes. And so we can find the probability of the sum of all of these. And if you go to, if you're actually in class, we would actually do this. But if you want to go to this website, that is it's a online tool for flipping or rolling dice, and you could go there and flip as many dice as you want to see what the probability is of certain outcomes. But one of the surprising things would be that what is the probability of rolling 2 dice and getting a sum that's even? Well, for example, this sum would be even. So would this sum, that's 4. So would this sum. But take a look at all of these, the sums. I'm sorry, the product. Let's say we want the product that's even. That's what I should have said. All of these products are going to be even. Okay? Because 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times, and I messed this up too. This would be an even product. This would be an even product. And this would be an even product. All of these would be an even product. This would be an even product. So would this one, and so would this one. And all of these. So would this one, and this one, and this one. And all of them in the bottom row would be an even product. That's 27 out of 36. 3/4 of the time, you're going to get an even product as opposed to an odd product. you'd actually have to count up the successes, okay, over the total number of outcomes, okay, or the frequency f of that event happening out of the total number of outcomes, f of n, if you wanted to find the probability that way. This is called a sample space, okay. A sample space is just a listing of all of the possible outcomes so that you can actually look at it and see what are the successes going to be. So in class we'd probably do a little bit more of those, but you could say the probability, what's the probability of getting at least one, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of 36 would be the probability of getting at least one. We even have one where there's 2 of them, but that's 11 out of 36, and in order to find that probability you'd probably have to list the sample space. All right, so just as in anything, if we take the population of, or the probability of something happening, and let's say we use the flipping a coin, and again here is a coin flipper online that you can go to and watch, but at the first time it might be heads. Let's say this one was a heads, and the second one was a tails, so it's 50%, and the third one was a tails, so now we're down to, and the fourth one was a tails, so now we're down to 25% is tails. But, and you might think, well, the probability of getting a heads is 50%, but we're all over the place. So, but as you go on and flip more and more, by the time you flip 100, you're really going to be close to getting it 50% of the time. It's probably not going to be exactly 50%. You can see here it's probably a little below 50%. This simulation looks like it's right at 50%, maybe a little bit below 50%. But the point is, the more you do the event, the probability is going to even out to whatever the expected probability would be. And that's going to be true with any probability. Going back to the rolling of a dice, if you roll a dice one time, you're probably not going to get an odd product 0.75 times. You either are going to be odd or you're not. Then you do it another time, and you do it another time, and if you do it 100 times, the probability is going to be pretty close to 75 times you're going to get an even product, and 25 times you're going to get an odd product. All right, some basic properties of probability. Probability, every single answer in this unit will be between 0 and 1. Now, it could be written as a fraction, like a half. The probability could be written as a decimal, like 0.5, or it could be written as a percent, like 50%. Okay, but all of those are between 0 and 1, okay, including 0 and 1. If it's 0, that means the event can't happen. So if the probability is 0, it will never happen. It's impossible. If the probability is 1, it's got to happen, which means there's no question about it. It's 100% of the time it will happen. That is Unit 1. And after watching this video, you can go ahead and start assignment in Math Excel, and we will be back tomorrow for Section 4.2. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.